Hello, and welcome to Jason Cavness Experience. I'm your host, Jason Cavness. Our guest today is Mr. Mike Brisbois. Mike, are you ready to be great today?
Yes.
Mike is an electrical engineer with design experience, product management, and leadership skills. He has worked in the building, space, and technology sectors. He has hosted and presented at many technical sessions and conferences. He is a technical, competent leader and able to get things done. Mike has a professional engineering license in the state of Washington, Oregon, Texas, Illinois, California, Missouri. His focus is on leading sustainable energy projects. He is a board member of several tech organizations. Mike, thanks for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So Mike, first, let's talk about something fun. You're actually an avid runner, correct?
Yeah, I was, but yeah.
Not anymore?
Well, I got the Whidbey Island Marathon coming up next week. So.
Oh, wow. So how long have you been a runner?
Since fifth grade. And when I was in fifth grade, I was always wondering if I could run 2 days in a row, that would be an accomplishment. So.
So what's the farthest you've ever ran at one time?
Probably 30 miles is the max, but I'm more of a marathon. Half marathon's better.
Okay.
10K.
And so running since fifth grade, have you ever taken a break from running, or is this constantly running?
Well, in college, I kicked out a window and cut my Achilles. So I was out for one season of cross country. But before that, I was a MVP for my cross country team. And then I took 1 year off and then came back and finished my 4 years at Florida Institute of Technology.
Did you have a scholarship for running?
No, I was actually trying to get into the soccer program, but Florida Tech, they had all the foreigners and they were like too good for me. So, but I'm a runner. So I'm like, I run back and forth so I can really, steal the ball and give it to somebody that can score. So,
yeah. So why do you like running so much?
Well, one, to lose weight. Second, I like.
Yeah, you don't see very many overweight runners, do you?
And second, I like the competition.
Okay.
So I'm always doing the 5K downtown Seattle, and I was chasing ponytails. So that was my incentive.
Do you have like a training regimen you follow, or you just run and like do whatever?
Okay, so I got to a point where if I got too much running in, my knees would go. So I had arthroscopic surgery for both knees. So my doctor said, try swimming and biking. So I took up triathlons and basically don't get more than like 20 miles a weekend. More power runs, more track runs. The Kenyans that win the Boston Marathon, which is this weekend, they are sprinters, and a lot of times the Kenyans, they first time ever running a marathon and they win it. So
as far as running, you hear some people say like running is good for your knees, other places it's bad for your knees. What's your take?
Well, so to a point, so there's a certain amount of mileage. Once you go over that, like not a professional runner, but somebody like me, it damages your thing. So once again, you got to get the 30 minutes of pumping the blood. That's good for your knees. There's other things, shoes, you can use orthotics.
Does the surface matter? Like if you run on concrete or grass or whatever?
So Bill Rogers, the 4-time runner, winner of the Boston Marathon, he came on my program and he told me do a lot of training through the woods where you actually get the muscles building, not just road training, but you're doing track through the.
I remember hearing that before.
Yeah. So that's so I took his advice and I do a lot of trail runnings. So that's good.
What's the shortest amount you run? Like you go from like half mile, 2 miles. There's always like 5 miles or more.
So when I was in college doing cross country, we would always go to the track, which is a 1/4 mile. And every time I got there, I kind of felt like puking because I'm not a small distance, but I know I had to perform against my fellow teammates. And so track workouts is good. Like I mentioned, the people that actually win these races are track folks. And typical run for me is like a 4-mile trail run. I do a 15K, which is 9.3 miles. That's a typical, get about 3 of those in a week.
And does it matter what time of the day you run? Do you have a certain favorite time of the day? Like some people like early morning, some people night, late at night. What's your favorite time?
Okay, so my favorite time is just before sunset. So I mean, I'm like a procrastinator, so I wait to the last minute. In fact, I was going through the woods yesterday. I had a light, but I try to make the darkness, try to get out of the woods before dark, because that's when the cougars and the bears come out. So
yeah, and does the type of shoe matter when you run?
So when I started at Florida Tech, I got I bought a pair of $12 shoes to run in because I was poor college student. Some people say that it makes a difference. I've seen a barefoot guy ran in one of my races. It depends on the foot. So, I mean, in college, they gave me orthotics and it was like bulky. I'm like, I don't like these. But I think you probably need minimal amount of cushion. And you probably need to, especially the running stores tell me you need to update every 1,000 miles.
Yeah, of course they do.
But I try to push it to the limit. If my knees are feeling good, which is not now, I should update.
So what's a race you ran in that you really had a lot of fun at?
Well, I always say Boston.
Boston.
Because it's 26 miles of fans, and I got my PR there. And what it is it's I always try to tell folks it's not the Boston Marathon that matters. It's the getting up to the Boston Marathon, because I did a race every weekend, and when you're at that level, you're like winning the races, and it's just such a high. So,
do you ever see yourself not running?
no, I'm a lifetime runner.
Lifetime runner.
So, I mean, like
so basically, the day before you pass away, you probably run the Boston Marathon the day before, right?
Well, John Kelly, he ran it like the most times, and the last time he did it was he ran 100 feet because he was like 85.
Yeah.
And we watched him, but he passed away. But yeah, in fact, my wife says you're probably going to die. Well, my doctor said that you're going to live forever unless you get run over by a car.
Yeah.
And I got some friends that got hit by a car.
Is there a race out there you have not run yet that you want to run?
On the bucket list, yeah, probably London.
London.
Some of those famous runs, but I won't be competitive. It's just to be. I did New York. I did Disney. I did Chicago. All the major ones here. Probably in the United States. Probably Grandmother's is a good marathon I did up in Duluth. Miami was kind of hot. Disney was hot. Chicago, it was hot. It was like 100 degrees. We lost a guy, so they had to close down the race because I drank all that Gatorade because I was there first.
Yeah. So when you're running the marathon, like what's the hardest part? Like first 5 miles? I always say different sort. Like the first 5 miles, some people say hit mile 20. Okay. Like what's been your personal experience?
So I think it's 13, because if you're not feeling good at 13, which is halfway, you kind of thinking about, should I give it up? But once you get to 20, 6K, you got 30 minutes left, or 45 minutes.
Then personal pride takes over, all that kind of stuff. And I'm guessing.
Yeah, I did Georgia, and I got one of these guys that wrote the book, and I hear the crowds clapping. I'm like, what's going on? And then I see, forgot his name, pass me. I'm like, oh no, man. I'm like, I'm doing good, but he's even going faster. So a lot of these Kenyans, they do the second half of the marathon faster. So,
yeah.
But
and so you were in a marathon next weekend, you said?
Yeah. Whidbey Island with a lot of hills.
Okay.
So I'm a pacer, so I have to hold
okay.
Pacer, so I have to go 3:45 on that one.
Okay.
So try to stay constant, so there's a bunch of runners running with us.
I'm guessing you've made a lot of friends through your running days.
Friends, a lot
competitors. What do you want to call them?
Competitors, yeah. They know me in the industry, so I'm known as Mick. So that's my running name.
Okay.
So.
And do you do like any triathlons or ultra marathons?
I do triathlons. I did the Ironman, which is a 26-mile marathon. It's a 2.4-mile swim and a 112-mile bike. So I did that once.
So next question, have you always been this insane?
Oh, well, I'm actually, you mentioned that I joined the Marathon Maniacs, and you have to be insane to do, to qualify, you got to do like 3 marathons in 3 weeks or something like that. And they just talk about insanity.
I mean, how does your body even recover from that? Like,
well,
it doesn't.
Now it doesn't.
It doesn't.
But in the old days, you would run the weekend, you take the next day off, and then the day before the race, you take the day off. So it was kind of like you don't think about it, and your body recovers when you're young.
Yeah.
Now, but one thing I would say to anybody: don't get that major injury, because that will set you back. Don't over push it. I mean, thinking from history experience now, when I was a kid, I just pushed it right into the ground. I said, oh, it's painful. Just run right through it,
Yeah,
So,
no pain, no gain.
yeah, that's how I thought it. But
So for recovery, like what do you do for recovery? Like you're taking ice baths, or like what are you doing for recovery?
just take time off. That's
Okay.
about it. And I mean, some people say you're not supposed to jump in the hot tub afterwards, because you know, you got to get rid of the, you know, the pains that build up. You know, drink a beer, try to get out of the zone. I was actually at the Boston Marathon when they had the bombing, and I was sitting down having a beer and watching on TV. I'm like, it's like 9/11. This is not happening. I just was there. You know, it's like, it's kind of crazy, but
Yeah.
ice bath. I've done the ice pads where you wrap it in, and I also did the heat in the microwave. You heat up the pad and wrap it. I don't know if it works or not, but it feels good. So,
And so it's safe to say running is like like your number one hobby, right?
yeah, my wife says you do too much of it, but
And so like I think a lot of people don't realize that no matter what your hobby is, it costs you money, right?
well, like I said, running is one of the cheapest thing. I mean,
But you still have to pay for the race entries and
well, the
shoes.
park run, which I did this morning, is a free race.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of 5K park races situated. They do it every week, 5K. And you know, you get folks out there that walking, running, it's just good for the community. So,
Okay. Let's suppose there's someone out there, like they're really not good in good shape. They want to start running. Or I mean, they've been running for a little bit on their own, like 2, 3, 4 miles a day.
okay.
And they want to enter a 5K race, but like they're scared to, right? Oh, I'll be embarrassed and make fun of me.
Yeah.
What would you tell these people? Like, no, get rid of your fears and go enter a race and have some fun.
Oh, because I have that sometimes. I do small races, so there was like a lot of folks doing that because they said, "Oh, I don't want to be the last one." But one thing that I do for my races, if you're the last one, you get a prize. So I actually gave them a prize. My first race with my family in Webster, Massachusetts, was the 10K, and my dad and my little brother finished last, and you could see the police cruiser behind them. And my dad says, "Never run again. I'm never gonna run again." I'm like, "No, you should be proud that you actually did it." And he did it in 60 minutes. That's a good time. Here, I see people doing it 90 minutes. Like, I mean, here in Seattle is different from Massachusetts. People here, they encourage each other. And I think there's no pride on the line here, but to encourage them, you know, do small distances, do races that are not timed. Like you can do the park run, which is a 5K. It's not timed, so nobody's going to record it. As you get better, like me, I like getting time because then I can see what I can beat the next week, or who's the competitor. How can I beat this competitor? What do I have to change in my strategy to do that?
And I'm guessing you ran one of the Seattle marathons already.
Several of them, yeah. They got
So-
the rock and roll. They got the Seattle Marathon and Thanksgiving weekend.
So I could be wrong, but I have to imagine the one in Seattle like has to be kind of hard, right? Because it's in winter time. It's all the hills. Is that one of the tougher marathons out there, or is it like average?
I think it's average because Boston is the same. Boston has a lot of hills. They got Heartbreak Hill. But the thing is with Seattle, the cooler weather is good for runners because I mean, if it's hot, I mean, your body overheats and you slow down. Seattle's like perfect. It could, if you had the mist and overcast, I mean, that's perfect conditions for a great PR, a personal record.
Okay.
But I don't have any problems with the Seattle Marathon, but the Seattle Rock and Roll, they kind of went down through Woodland Park, up and down. So if you're training for a marathon and just on pavement, this would be a little twist.
Okay.
But I mean, you're always looking forward to the next rock band. You know, 3 more miles, you got, you know, another rock band, so, you know, playing music, and keeps you kind of going on the Seattle Rock and Roll Marathon.
So let's suppose someone's like has not run like for the longest time, right?
Okay.
Say they're mid-30s, their average health, right? And they're like, I want to run a marathon. What advice do you have for them? Obviously, they can't say today's Monday, I'm running a marathon on Tuesday. I'm thinking like how long do they need to train? Like, what would be like a dummies 101 training plan for them?
Yeah, except if you're my older brother, he kind of had a week before that Boston Marathon. He said, Mike, eat a big steak and run it. He never did it, but he's not a runner. But start walking and then move up and then move up. And the thing is, you get, I think it's the 10% rule. Don't increase more than 10% a week. And then if you feel pain, I cut back a little bit. Try working out at the gym. treadmills, mix it up a little bit and keep it fun. Like fartleks would be like speed up and slow down, speed up, slow down. That's always a good training. Do some long runs, slow long runs, and then fast runs. Like, so, you know, take it easy, have a schedule. I mean, I think when I first started working out, they always kind of gave you a schedule to follow, but listen to your body. If your body says no, you should cut back or slow down, or you know, bike. You can walk. My dad does power walking, so that's good. He does also ballroom dancing. In fact, when I was injured, they told me to do the aerobics to get the breathing going. So there's two things for running: is your body, aerobics, and the mind. I guess you got to have them all up at once, and then when race day comes, like this weekend's the Boston Marathon, people like cutting back. You don't want to speed up, but to me, I always kind of did a half a marathon the week before, and I'm like sore. So it's like, well, that was unless you're training through the marathon, you're using it for something else further. You'd probably want to taper off before the race. And then Boston Marathon, they have this huge buffet pasta, and it kind of like, it's called carbo loading, and that you got to eat a lot of junk food during the marathon because your body's like just burning calories left and right, and that will keep you going. You don't want to hit the wall, because a lot of folks, you know, I did that once in Yakima Marathon, and I hit the wall because I didn't grab a drink right before the end of the marathon, and I came to a complete stop. My body shut down. I'm like, I'm almost winning the race, and you know, they'd have it ready for me because I was early, and so I bypassed that, and I just came to a walk-in stop, and then people just passing me. There's nothing you can do. So you got to be smart. You need the sugar at the end. If you ever see some of these Kenyans at the New York City Marathon, they're popping jelly beans or some sugar pills to get that extra boost to get you to the finish line.
Do you have any like mentors as far as like anybody who like shows you how to run better or anything like that?
So I kind of model after people like Bill Rogers. You know, what they do. I got a lot of local guys that are really good. I got one guy, he's shooting for under 3 hours for every state. So he flies into every state. So what he says is pretty good, because he also does triathlons too. In fact, Marcus Garcia, he's a coach here in Seattle, and he coaches all the triathletes. So he's been very active. I had him on my program for the Beaver Lake Triathlon to talk about safety. He's a really good coach. They've done it. They studied it. I guess there's medicine in school. You can take classes and stuff. And then they talk to athletes and figure out what do you need to tweak to get the maximum performance. Yeah.
And it's not like every town has some kind of race every weekend, right? There's always some kind of race you can find, correct?
Yeah. So I think it's Race USA. In the old days, you had a magazine, and I could kind of sketch it all out. Now you got to do it online. Active.com is what I use, and you just kind of Google Issaquah 5K, and it pops up. So it's pretty, if you get connected to the website.
So how many races do you think you've done over the years? Probably thousands, right?
Yeah, I got so many t-shirts.
Yeah.
So
from your years of running, do you have like a friendly competitor that you always like kind of racing against, that you see him every race, y'all kind of compare notes and try to like compete against each other?
Yes. Well, in Florida, I used to run in Florida, and there's always that guy that beat me because he was in the same age group. So you always try to beat him, and you're never going to beat him because he's always one step ahead of you. But there's, as I get older, the younger guys are getting better. So before I used to kick their butt, now they're like kicking my butt. So, and we just lost Robert Bondurant. He fell off the mountain in California. I guess it was dark. You got to be careful tripping. You could fall off the mountain. So.
And so how often do you do trail running for races? Are there a lot of trail races also?
Oh, there's a lot of trail races here in Seattle area. I try to do a lot of those. In fact, my younger years, I used to do, there's Evergreen Trail runners, Orca runners. They have trail races all the time. So, in fact, I put on a couple myself.
So like, we'll say like the last 3 or 4 years, what's the longest you've gone without running?
Oh, it's probably, like I um, just ruptured my Achilles. So I was out for 3 months straight.
Okay.
So I couldn't.
I bet
run.
and that probably killed you, didn't it?
Well, I was looking at my weight. I'm like, now I have to change my diet because I used to eat Doritos every night. I'm like, well, if I do that, I won't be able to get back in shape as fast. So
Yeah. And you might not know this, but what's out there? Is there anything out there that says that if you're a runner, like your life expectancy increases or your blood pressure decreases? Like what out there that says if you're an active runner, like your health actually improves, your life is actually better?
okay, I think it's just exercise in general, and doctors recommend 30 minutes of exercise a day. As I look and see this, I see the folks. It's pumping the blood. I mean, I think that's you got to either do a treadmill at the house or working. I think that just from my friends, and seeing the folks that their life expectancy, um, you know. But if you go over that limit and you're actually, they say it's not good for you. So.
So next, we'll go into electrical engineering.
Okay.
So I could be wrong, but like when you're a little kid, people say I want to be Spider-Man, superhero, firefighter. I don't know if any people say I want to be electrical engineering when I grow up. What made you decide to choose that as a career?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that. When I was in third grade, I always wanted to be a lawyer. So I mean that does a lot of running. But when I was in high school, they told me you got to go to the Lucason's English class, and I thought that was too easy. I wanted a challenge, so I went to the calculus class. So I like challenges. If I'm just sitting in class getting an A, to me doesn't do anything for me. So I took calculus, and then my dad's a mechanical engineer. My brother was a mechanical engineer, but the way I did it, I applied for MIT, RIT, all the California Institute of Technology, and the one that a different major at each one, a different engineering major, and the one that popped up is that I got accepted at is University of Hartford and Florida Institute of Technology, and the one at Florida Institute of Technology, I put in electrical engineer. So I wanted a challenge. Maybe nuclear engineer would have been a better challenge. And I was actually looking for the money too. So to me, civil engineer was kind of like, it was kind of easier. So I wanted more of a challenge. So I got into electrical engineering.
And for electrical engineering, you get your bachelor's, master's, and PhD in it, correct? No.
So I got a electrical engineering BS from Florida Tech, MS, MBA from Florida Tech business. So, and then I got a marketing and accounting from Florida Atlantic University. Owls, they just went to the Final Four.
Yeah.
So I'm like, we're happy.
Yes. So what does electrical engineering actually do?
All right. So 85% of the electrical engineers, I think they go into software engineering or something like that. Because Texas Instruments, they were taking all the folks that had a 3.0 and better, sending them to Texas. I didn't really want to go to Texas. There's power engineers, there's electronic engineers, there's health and electronics health engineers. I work with a lot of folks. The IEEE, they have 40 different technical societies. It used to be called the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers, but they changed it now to Advancing Technology for Humanity. So actually, we got the conference next Friday in Las Vegas. So I got mechanical engineers, I got health engineers, electrical engineers. They got the new microgrids, which is renewable engineers. So I'm a design engineer. When I started out, my first job was at Kennedy Space Center doing systems engineering. And I'm like, well, I want to do what that guy does. He designs. So I jumped the ship and took from systems engineering, doing payload electrical configuration testing, to power and design engineer, where I could actually build the Titan launch pad, doing all the lights and the power. So that was exciting.
So you did the Titan launch pad? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, for Lockheed Martin. And then Boeing actually had a competitor right next to it. The same was getting built by Boeing. And it was kind of neat to see who had the best rocket.
So how do you recommend someone to pick what type of engineering they want to do, right? I mean, they seem like there's so many you can do. They all
Okay.
seem pretty cool, pretty interesting. Like, what do you recommend for people to
Okay,
do?
so if I could have done it differently, I would have done co-op, where you actually would take a summer off or a semester off and actually work for them. Like you could work for NASA, FAA, they have internships where you actually get a feel for the job. Me, I went straight through, got the four-year degree, then jumped into the field. I'm like, so I started working at Kennedy Space Center. I'm like, this is not what I went to school for. I'm just chasing signatures from NASA. I'm like, this is like gopher work, and I don't like it. So actually, I wanted to get more involved. So I jumped ship to Rockwell, and I actually worked with the astronauts with small payloads, and we kind of went around and kind of coached them when they're up in space, what to do with it and how to capture the data. We also did the arm that pulls the Hubble out, and
Oh shit.
so we put the bunny suits on. But it was kind of funny. We had like 15 engineers, putting in a bolt, all the QC. And the funny thing is, Hubble, I don't know if you know about Hubble, but the Hubble guys, they use the international system. We use the American system. So when they got up to space, it wasn't focused because the payload folks and the shuttle folks use two different systems. So,
Man, that's so interesting. You're working the Hubble telescope.
but I would say something there. It was fun at the first couple months, but then it kind of got routine.
Yeah,
Like,
I can imagine. Yeah.
so unless you love space and just because I see rockets going up every day, I'm like
no
okay.
big thing.
I mean, I lived on Cape Canaveral, Cocoa Beach, and they had the missiles coming out of the submarines, and they were blowing up and then going freaky.
Yeah.
In fact, I think the shuttle that went off course, they had to blow it up.
Yeah.
It didn't blow up on itself. It
Yeah.
was just going off course. So
Yeah, man, that's interesting. So what other cool products have you worked on? What other cool things have you worked on? Or interesting things?
Like electrical engineering.
Yeah.
Okay. So I do a lot of schools in Chicago. So doing the lighting. They do have a LEED program, which is energy conservation. That was kind of nice to work on. And then wherever I go, like I worked for the FAA, and they actually did a couple LEED projects down in California, which was kind of interesting on energy savings and how to turn it green, sustainable, less carbon. That was always fun. Now I'm in the microgrid technologies, where we actually looking at hydrogen fuel cells. We're looking at solar. We're looking at wind turbines, battery energy storage. So that's exciting to me because it's a new field, and I can bring it to folks. And actually, one thing that we do is energy as a service, where we actually come and put equipment on your site, and then you get to sell power back to the utility at when there's peak demand. So that's fun to me. Saving customers money.
So microgrid is like pretty much like renewable energy.
Yep.
So what's your take on renewable energy? Like, do you think it's actually going to be a major part of our energy consumption? Is it going to like ever take the place of oil and coal? Or do you think it's just like a pipe dream?
Well, yeah, definitely coal and oil is out of it, because I mean, it's not like people are saying that you're going to have higher climates, more tornadoes. We see that. I mean, maybe it's just a trend, but I see it getting worse. And unless we do something for the environment, I guess the carbon is kind of heating up, like causing more storms. But I think if we get rid of that by doing the solar panels, the wind turbines, the stuff that doesn't give off the carbon, I think we're going to be a better society. And in fact, everybody's pointing at the U.S. like it's our fault because we got all these diesel cars, and
Yeah.
I mean they already have hydrogen cars, hydrogen trucks. They have EV trucks. I mean, we're working with City of Vancouver. They're putting in a whole new hydrogen fueling station down there, and they just put in EV charging for their buses. It's all the clean energy. So
I mean, I know the United States has a lot to blame as far as carbon emissions, but like don't countries like China, India have like way more all the pollution they have? Maybe not cars, but the factories and stuff like that.
yes, that's even worse. Yeah, you're right. Like I mentioned, when we go to China, they have the fuel, the coal, and they had the marathon there, and they had to close the marathon down because nobody could breathe. I mean, they had to put masks on if they wanted to run, but I think there was one year they had to close down the Beijing Marathon because of the cold in October. So I think you're right on that point. Yeah.
As far as microgrids, are these like gonna replace like existing electrical grids, or how's that gonna work?
In some cases, yes, it's called DER, distributed energy resources, where they actually are doing wild horse here in Yakima area, Ellensburg. They got wind farms, which is actually replacing the diesel generators. We have a lot of hydrogen up here, so we're good up here in Washington. But like California, there's little or no hydro, which is water generating electricity, and they're having power outages left and right down there. And we're actually doing work in Shasta, California, where we actually putting in solar and battery energy storage and wind turbines. So the telecoms, I don't know if you know PG&E, they shut off your power for no reason. They see a storm coming because they had that fire. So we got these telecoms out there, and they lose power, and they have a diesel generator there for a couple hours, and then that cell phone doesn't work anymore because there's no power for the cell tower. So we're actually putting in, like I mentioned, renewables for that telecom.
Does nuclear energy play a part in renewables? That's something totally different.
No, nuclear is part of it. Yeah. So we actually going to do a tour here down in Seattle. They have the fusion, Avalanche Energy on the 24th. We're going to go through there. Fusion is fission is when you split the hydrogen, you get the bomb, and you got fusion is when you take two and you fuse it and make it into three, and it gives off energy. And I think that's going to be really great when it comes online, which we're thinking 2027, where you got microgrids that are fusion, and all you need is two atoms to come together to make three, and it gives off unlimited clean energy. So I think that's a big part. If they get these, we interviewed a couple people already that are actually doing this in England, and there's a guy up in Canada that does it. His company, they got lots of funding for this. If it gets off, and you just heard the Secretary of Energy, she claimed that they put the two together.
Yeah, I remember that because that was a really big deal.
But you'll hear all the background, all this other stuff, the magnets coming together or the lasers, that took a lot of energy too. But the concept kind of, it was a positive for the industry. So
now nuclear energy, I know it gets a bad rep, Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island, but nuclear is actually like the safe energy out there, right?
Well, nuclear, that's the fission, right? Not the fusion. The fission is the 3 Mile Island when the explosion, in Russia, they had the Chernobyl, that bad stuff. You got to be able to contain it. If something goes wrong, you got to be able to shut it off. That's always, but it's still clean energy. I mean, it's little or no carbon output.
How about all the nuclear waste that people say is like dangerous and lasts millions of years?
Yeah, that's an issue.
Yeah.
I mean, we got that in Hanford, they're making them into logs and burying them. And now I guess the drinking water is not supposed to be safe. I heard. So,
yeah. Is the Hanford plant, is that still operational? Or is it closed down? I don't remember.
Not sure.
Yeah.
So
as far as renewables, suppose you had to pick one to put all your money against, right? Like, which one do you say, hey, this is a renewable that's going to actually make it versus other ones?
We have investors that actually talk on this, but I mean, it's just like the stock market. Which ones right now? Solar is 85% of it is made in China. So I mean, we're backdooring it to Vietnam to get it here. I think Biden just came up with. You guys are you're taking the shortcut and getting around it. Let's just kind of like let China back in. I think he said that. I'm not 100% sure, but you got solar, you got hydrogen fuel cells, you got regular fuel cells, which is remember the space shuttle was, going to wherever, Mars or Saturn. They have fuel cells to keep fuel cells is sort of like a battery. And then what else you got? Oh, they have other contraptions too. They kind of like wind, I forgot what is it? They wind up something and then, and then they have like elevators. I mean, there's all types of microgrids that they're coming up with now. So um, put the money in. Can't tell because like we're working with Vancouver, they got EV and hydrogen. They said in 3 years they're going to decide which one they're going to do the second phase on. So it's, we'll have to see. It's like the beta and the VHS. It's, you can kind of guess. I mean, the beta was smaller, right? You would figure that would work, but people went with the VHS.
Yeah, I remember that. What excites you about the future of electrical engineering?
So one thing that we're trying to do is, so the IEEE is 450,000 members, and we're going to get the president-elect. He's Tom Coughlin out of San Jose. So what he came on my program and he was saying that we need to motivate these young engineers because then, I mean, we're going to lose all the electrical books. They're going to what software or whatever's paying more money, I guess, or whoever gives the life balance. But the thing is, from my perspective, just like NASA is the brain drain, if you don't coach the young guys or excite them, we're going to lose the whole industry. And then every year at January 1st, a couple days after, they have the young stars, young folks, and they kind of like get them up on stage and praise them and give them new ideas. And I think that's a great incentive to excite the workforce in electrical engineering. And just like the schools, I mean, what motivates folks to go to a certain school in electrical engineering?
Yes. So electrical engineering, like it's pretty tech advanced. Has a tech advancement been been steady over the years?
Well, there's a lot of stuff coming out like ChatGPT. I mean, that's exciting. I mean, that's something to do with I guess it goes across all the fields, right? Physicians. So I guess what do you define electrical engineering as? Electronics. I mean, they come up with space electronics. There's all types of different electronics. So, I mean.
So once you get your bachelor's degree as an electrical engineer, you have to get some kind of certification, like you do as a lawyer, or you just get your degree and go find a job?
So there's a couple things out there. I mean, I got a PE, professional engineering, to do power system studies or building. You got to go through the AHJ, which is the code officials in this. If you're going to put lighting in power, you need to get a PE, professional engineering. So you have to sit for the exam, which is I think it's an 8-hour exam.
Whoa.
So, and it's basically on your field. So in the morning you got general, and afternoon you got electrical part of it. And then they got lead, and they have different, like I just sat, I'm going to sit for this certified energy manager. So there's different designations you can get. To start a job, you pretty much don't need that. You probably just need a degree, and there's tons of companies looking for people today.
So electrical engineering pretty much the same across the world. Like if you're an electrical engineer here in the United States, you probably do the same job in China. I mean, of course, we speak the same language, of course, right?
Yeah.
Is electrical engineering like norms or whatever you want to call it pretty much the same across the world?
There's standards. So
Standards, yeah.
IEEE has a huge standards division. So they come up with standards. They work with the industry, and they develop these standards. Like I'm working with the IEEE 1547, which is the interconnection to the utility. So we want anybody that's going to connect to the utility, we want it to be kind of uniform throughout the country. So everybody doesn't, if you ever go to China or Mexico, people just kind of grabbing power left and right and getting hurt. So we got to have safety standards. We follow the NFPA 70E, which is the, electrical safety in the workplace. Like I mentioned, the 1547 kind of details on what parameters you need to have to connect to the grid, because if you have a corona effect, you could actually destroy the local utility. So, I mean, the utility is very concerned about other people selling power back to them, and it has to be on their terms, in their standards. So, yes.
So Mike, so you have your PE license in different states.
Right.
Why is that? Like, why do you have to have one for each state, each of the 50 states? So how does that work? Or,
Well, we do work in Texas, we do work in California.
and each state has a different standard or something, or different license requirements?
Well, you gotta get in, like Texas, you need to get fingerprinted, eye scanned and all that. They have different standards to, and then they have different fees. 480 volts is 480 volts, 120 volts is 120 volts. Canada has different standards. They're at 360 volts, so you gotta follow those. But yeah, each state, they have ethics exam you have to follow. But it's,
And you have to retake these exams like once a year, so
Oh,
it's
no,
one
no.
one and done.
yeah, one and done.
Okay.
So you can, it's called reciprocity. So if I want to get a PE in Hawaii, you just send in the information. The NCEES, you can just apply with them, give them all your references. They'll check, they'll do that for you. And you just got to pay your fee, and then you get the license for a different state. So yeah, it's the same exam for the 52 states.
So Mike, can you talk
It's
about the
50
difference between being a technical expert versus project management,
Project management.
versus technical expert?
Okay, so project manager, you just kind of run the project. Technical, you're more of the design, you're in the weeds, you're looking at the submittals, technical issues, the specifications you're writing, you're writing the plans. The project manager, they're the ones that work with the construction companies to actually, get the project on schedule, on budget, for the requirements.
So when you're looking to hire electrical engineering, like what are you looking for? Like a certain amount of experience, certain skill sets, certain values, what do you look for?
So basically, we just hired a new guy this Monday's coming on board, but he has an energy background. We do a lot of energy audits. So we want somebody interested, like in energy. So if he went to school for energy, he's probably interested. Can he, make the schedules, do the reports, has some kind of technical savvy to him, motivated. I mean, you can see if somebody's motivated, or they just like, oh, okay, I'll take the job. So I didn't interview, my boss interviewed him. So my boss is very excited for him. And, a lot of times you want new folks, so, kind of get them in the industry and keep them along. But we also need to have experienced folks. I mean, we can't just have a lot of new people. We need some folks like myself to train them. And I do a lot of training with them. And working with the industry, I actually have speakers come on the show and actually kind of give, like you said, things are changing sometimes fast. Like the hydrogen, is that going to, somebody else making a better mousetrap? Let's hear about it, so bring them on the show.
So Mike, I know there's no such thing as like an average career for electrical engineering, but what is like the average career? Like what should, like you graduate from college, like what jobs do you look for as far as like advancing?
Okay, so a lot of jobs, some folks like government. I mean, it's more secured. Then other folks like to work in the industry. They like the challenge in working with people. What are they looking for? So, I mean, everybody has a different tenure to them, but you can talk to them and see if they're motivated for your job that you're interviewing for. NASA folks wanted to work for NASA because it sounds like it sounds exciting, right? And they actually
Until it's not.
until it's not. A lot of folks, I have friends at NASA or FAA, and they love what they're doing. A lot of times they just do what they do, but they also hire contractors like me, which I'm embedded with them, and I actually help them more with the technical because they're more high level projects. Like some folks, you got to get this new tower. We just put a new tower down in San Francisco, so that needed to be done. There's a lot of scheduling, talking to folks, make sure all the contractors are on board, reviewing all the submittals. So that's always important. And then budget. Are we staying in budget? We on schedule? If not, what do we need to do to get them back on schedule?
So I'm guessing when you do your job, electrical engineering, you're doing whatever you're doing, you have to deal with the bureaucracy of local governments, state governments. And don't answer this if you don't want you to go, can't, like, is there a certain city or location that's easier for y'all to deal with because it's less bureaucracy or something like that? Or is it pretty much bureaucracy across the United States.
Well, once again, it depends on the AHJ, which is the authority having jurisdiction. So you could have one manager that approves it and then another manager that doesn't in the same city, in the same department. So that's, it's sort of like that in school, right? If you got the electronics guy, I was just telling my wife, one of the head of the electrical engineers, I just read in the Facebook, actually, he died. And I'm like, wow, I was in this class. And what he told us in class is to take the book to the bar and read it. And that's what he talked about the whole day. He's a department head. He actually didn't have any technical things he was sharing with the class. He says, read the book. That's all he said. And it was, so, different teachers, in fact, I went for accounting in University of Central Florida, and she kind of flunked half the class. But if you got past that, you accomplished something, as opposed to somebody just handing out A's. So there's a difference. I mean, I like the challenge, but sometimes you got to get through the classes.
Yes, can you talk about your role as chair of the IEEE?
Okay, so I always wanted to work with consultants, and one day the position was open, so I took it. And basically, what it is working with consultants.
And this is a non-paid volunteer position, right?
That's right. Yeah. But I have about 110 consultants in Seattle, so I try to have talks for those consultants. What they do, sometimes there's small consultants, they need help on, getting their business going. A lot of them are engineers, so they don't think like a business savvy. I try to connect them with business folks to what do you need to move forward, where you're looking. So we kind of give them all kind of ideas. So I actually reach out to them and listen to what they want to hear. And then like my conferences, I reach out to them so I can promote them. So if nobody knows about you, I mean, then you don't have business. So you want to get that repeat business. I mean, that's important. I know a lot of the engineering companies here in Seattle, they get 90% repeat business, and that's good. So,
and how long have you been the chair?
I'm going on 4 years.
4
now.
years?
And they told me it's only supposed to be good for 2 years, but I got nobody else volunteer.
No one wants to do it.
So to me, I took it for my BD, business development. So I think reaching out to people and working with them, they help me too. So it's a win-win for the IEEE Consultant Network. And I just won an award for having the most talk shows, right? So I didn't hear anything negative. People just like what I'm doing because, I mean, it's free. They're not paying me. I'm connecting folks, and I think it's a win-win for the for the area.
So of course you're doing it because you want to give back to the community and be of value, but what do you get out of it? I mean, you yourself get something out of it, right? What do you get out of it?
Well, I get the connections. So I got the conference next week in Vegas. So I'm taking the microgrid consortium down there, and we're doing actually presentation in the boardroom at the in Las Vegas, and while the conference is going on. So basically, folks that are coming there, they're coming to see me too. So we're going to talk about some jobs and some potential jobs. I mean, we got the Green Energy Corridor coming out, and the DOE, we're working with the DOE, Department of Energy, on getting these fueling stations every 30, 50 miles from here to the Massachusetts on the I-90. Somebody just gave a talk last week, and they have the induction highway where you don't even have to stop anymore. The roadway actually fuels the car along the way.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool. But like the Chat GBT, which is, I don't know if you know about that, but is it eliminating our jobs or making our jobs easier? Or, I mean, I think that's a great forward.
Yeah, but we look at it is like, remember back the days we had a bunch of horses, and the cars came out, people are like, hey, because you have people who do shovel the horse shit off the street.
Yeah.
Oh, they're all going to lose their jobs, right?
Right.
Of course they did. Like, I just think it's a cycle, right?
Yeah.
New stuff comes up, replaces old stuff, and people adapt, Now, like, are people gonna lose their jobs? Probably yes, right? But
Well, I mean, I studied Japan in, I studied Japan in college. And what they were rewarded if they could eliminate their job. So they would get promoted if they could eliminate their job. And one thing when I was working at the Space Center is if you could come up with some cost savings, the money would go to your pocket. So you can, if you could figure out how to save billions of dollars, you get a chunk of that, I guess. So
nice. And so you have the Las Vegas event next weekend, right?
yes,
But you also do an event in Florida, like you have a cruise coming in October, right?
yeah,
Isn't it like the 50th anniversary of your something?
right.
Can you talk about that?
Okay, so I hijacked the cruise line. So I do these seminars all over. We had Miami in December.
And these seminars, are they only focused on electrical engineering or different subjects?
So like I mentioned, IEEE is not the Institute of Electronic and Electrical Engineers anymore. It's advancing humanity. It's advancing technology for humanity. So I'm bringing in mechanical engineers. I'm bringing in folks financial. We have the financial summit every year. So I'm basically just integrating a lot of folks. We're trying to work with ASHRAE. We're trying to work with Engineers Without Borders, which is more mechanical, civil. So we're trying to become like the Boy Scouts. You're inviting the girls in to make it more interesting, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, the cruise conference is open to pretty much. In fact, I'm trying to get the mayor of Bellevue to come down and give a talk. She was here at Seattle Electrical Conference. She gave a talk on smart cities. So how Bellevue is becoming smarter, how they're using LiDAR to prevent accidents, and they're progressive. I did have Harold on my talk show before he became mayor, but right now it's kind of hard to get him on because he's probably too busy.
Here's one for you. So like, it's and that's my opinion. Like you have cities like Bellevue, Seattle. We say all the big cities, right, urban areas. Like they're taking advantage of the technology, right? Like LiDAR,
Yeah,
all the stuff going on. But what about the small country towns, like the rural country communities, right?
yeah.
Is this like to be this big disadvantage, right, in the future, right? How do we make sure the rural communities or less popular areas have the same advantage as far as all of the stuff
Okay.
coming on?
You mentioned I just had a speaker from Chicago talk on that. It's called equity, energy equity, where they're pushing like the funding wouldn't go to the disadvantaged as much as the ones that are more lucrative salary. So they're pushing to have equity in energy. So she did a good talk. I mean, I liked it. I mean, I think we got to get that out there where the small rural are at the same level. I mean, we're talking, do they really need LiDAR? Because I know in Friday Harbor, they don't have any traffic signals. They're all stop signs, right? So, and they want to be like that.
Yeah. You definitely want to like throw money at a community that doesn't need it. So you definitely want to do that.
But there's matching funds. So if the community wants it, they could get a federal matching funds. I know Seattle does that a lot. Our companies go after that a lot to get the projects. They just came out with the IRA, Infrastructure Reduction Act, and there's a ton of money out there for renewables. So if anybody wants to get on board, we can get them connected with the funding. And like I mentioned, the energy as a service, some of these microgrids are practically no cost because, like the Siemens would own it and they would maintain it, and you would benefit from the power. So to me, that's a win-win. I mean,
so I might make this up, but there's communities out there like have like lived out code like for generation, right? That codes everything to them, code like employ the father, the grandfather, great grandfather, right?
Yeah.
And like it's like hell will have to freeze over to get rid of coal, right? But how do you convince these communities like no, there's something better than coal and your life would be better without coal? Or is it just a matter of like that's how it is in those communities?
Well, I mean, it's just like Filene's basement, right? They said, well, we didn't change, and they went out of business. I mean, the industry's changing. I mean, coal, yeah, they got jobs, but we got to do job replacement. I think President Biden has programs to do that. but I mean, yeah, it's a tough sell. I mean, they've been doing coal forever, and then you want to change it. Change is always, it's always a challenge for some people. Me, I welcome challenge change because I know we're going to do the community better. But some folks that get into these engineering jobs, like you mentioned, they've been doing it for, like my dad, he was doing it for like 30 years, and now he got 5 years left. He says, Mike, I gotta retire. I can't be retrained. I'm an old dog, so.
So is this true? So I read somewhere like, like how to put this, like Tesla, like that you really can't have like a charging system every house in the neighborhood because of the grid's not ready for that yet. How true is that?
Well, I mean, I heard the community microgrids where actually everybody plugs in at night and they share that power. So if you have too much power, your neighbor could use your power. I heard that, but somebody came on my program, or somebody talked to me and they said, what if there's a fire because you're connected to this? Who's liable? I mean, for commercial, you could write it off, but if if you're plugged in and your house burns down, I mean, does the city want to take that responsibility? It has to probably be a public-private partnership or something that you would know if somebody put something together wrong, and whose mistake is that? In fact, we got some forensic folks going to be talking at Las Vegas conference next week. So what they do is they go in after the fire and try to figure out, whose responsibility is that.
So for your professional engineering exam, how long ago did you take that?
2003.
2003?
Yeah.
And that's the 8-hour exam, correct?
Right. 2 sections of 4 hours and then 4 hours.
So from your point of view, was that worth taking and passing? Did it pay off in the long run for you? As far as like getting extra money, extra job, whatever?
Yes, definitely. Okay. Yeah. So, because folks want, I mean, when you go for a proposal, folks want to know you have a professional engineer on board. So professional engineer, what that means is you putting your stamp on it. If something goes wrong, they're coming after you. They're coming after your license. So that means something to somebody. And if you're doing crappy work, you could be barred from, just like a lawyer, if they're telling frivolous things to the client. I mean, they can get disbarred. I mean, it's the same way with engineering. So we have a high standard ethics. So we need to follow the code. The code is the minimum before you go to jail. You can do more than the code, but if you do less and then there's an accident, smaller wire size, you burn the wire, you burn the house down, then that's all not good.
Have you ever seen anyone like that have their professional engineering like revoked since you've been doing this?
Well, I see a lot of people on the list. So, and they say, don't work with these folks, or, I mean.
I'd imagine it's a pretty small community, right?
Well, there's a lot of money in it. If you got a PE and you're stamping drawings, some people do it cookie cutter. They're not even looking at the design. Me, if I have people working for me, I have to supervise them, the whole design. And then I
mean, that's your personal credibility on the line, right?
I own the.
I can imagine like stamping. Oh no, what it's like, that's craziness to me.
But some people you need a stamp to go through the city, right? So some people kind of sub that out and say, can you stamp it? And then some people have no ethics and they stamp it and they get the money. So that's an issue.
So Mike, so you have your own full-time job that you make money at. You have basically another full-time job as a volunteer job. And then you have another full job running marathons, and you're married, which is of course another full-time job. So how do you like balance all these time constraints and things you do? Like, what's your system for that?
Okay, so like I mentioned, just like running, you work up to it, right? So a lot of this stuff, I'm, like I tell my boss, I get the job done in 30 minutes. What do I do the rest of the 39 and a half hours? The thing is, you become skilled at it, and then you try to get more volunteers to help out, in which I'm doing that now for both the running and the consultant. But folks want to be part of something that's valuable. And funny that you said that. The Seattle chair of the IEEE, Sanjay Samuel, he's looking for volunteers. A lot of folks say, I want to be there, but when he actually needs somebody to pick up the pizzas, nobody's there to pick them up. So
Yeah, everyone, most people know the benefits of doing the job and not the job itself,
Right,
unfortunately.
exactly. Yeah.
So Mike, you present a lot of technical conferences, right? And so how do you deal with like presenting technical matter, like can be pretty boring, but also make it exciting? Like how
Oh,
do you
yeah.
mix like good storytelling with the technical piece?
Okay, so the trick to that is you got to keep it fast paced. All my talks are just 20 minutes. So somebody has all this. I said you got to pack it into 20 minutes. So you're getting the best 20 minutes out of them, and then 5 minutes of Q&A. So I got to keep it fast paced. Some people don't like that because I'm too fast paced. But when they're up there, I say we're going to invite you back for an hour show, and then you can give us more information. I mean, some of this is really great stuff, but we're just showcasing it. We're just sampling them. We're actually, seeing what they have. And if they're great, that's good. If I had one guy, he was showing a video selling something. I'm like, well, the IEEE is not about selling
Yeah.
stuff. Well, I had to sit through it because I invited him. But the thing is, the IEEE, we try to, because I heard this before, they don't want all this advertising. If somebody's going to go to a conference, they want content, something that they can use. And then like the Las Vegas, I have 2 tracks, which they can choose the speaker and they're going to get cut off at the same time. So you can switch. I mean, it's basically 2 conference rooms. We got Greg Billington. He's an Olympic triathlete that went to Rio. So he's my co-host. He'll be speaking. And then I always have giveaways at lunchtime, the IEEE giveaway, make that exciting. We have happy hour. I invited Santa Claus to December, Miami, and Santa Claus was drinking a beer. I said, have a beer, Santa Claus. So everybody liked that. So it was really nice. Some of the comedians, they could be pricey, 15,000. I'm not at that level yet. But like most of my conferences, the speakers, they just come, most of them paid from their employer. Basically, we're showcasing them, we're promoting them. And then I always like to have a mayor come, somebody talk with authority, kind of kicking it off. And I had a lot of the Rebu, some of the local Seattle folks. I had Bruce Harrell on once.
Okay.
Kaufman was the IEEE president next year, so he's going to be an influencer, and we got him on a cruise for a week, so we got his ear. So
Nice.
he's wanting what can we do, so we can talk to him, say, hey, let's push more microgrids, or let's push more electronics, or whatever. But he goes around and talks to everybody. He's working with the president now. I guess it's a 1-year deal. So
the monthly talks that you'll give, like, is it how do you pick the topic for the talks? Is it up to the speaker to do, or you tell them what you want them to hear about?
So basically, I have certain things: health electronics. I got financial summit. I got the microgrid green energy conference. So basically, I'm putting, if it's a tech conference, payload. Since I worked at the Space Center, we have a payload. Rachel's going to talk on payload space policy. Where does the country want to go with the space policy? I mean, there's a lot of junk when they shoot up this, and you got all these satellites, Elon Musk putting all the satellites up there. I mean, we're going to start having collisions. I mean, we already having collisions. Is there kind of like a standard for international? I mean, we're working with the International Space Station. We actually had space vacations that we're promoting in the future. So you got Amazon shooting up rockets in Texas. Captain Kirk went up, right? And he was excited. I mean, that's something that we're shooting for. I heard Virgin Atlantic just went out of business. I mean, he put the space plane up. That was kind of exciting, but these are all exciting things that I like space. I mean, I lived in Florida, so that's why I kind of got involved.
I'm big in space too. Yeah. So do you think it's a good thing or bad thing, or does it matter like the private companies are like taking over the NASA job, so to speak?
Oh, okay. So when I was in 1987, when I worked at the Space Center, that was NASA's biggest thing. They wanted to commercialize it. They didn't want to be a big bureaucracy. I mean, we looked at the space shuttle as a Model T Ford. I'm like, we're lucky to get this thing up in space. I mean, the technology is so old, and to change a whole program, it takes billions and billions of dollars, and that wasn't going to happen. So getting Elon Musk to put the SpaceX up there, that is just fantastic because they're motivated. They're motivated by the bottom line.
Yeah.
The NASA, well, if we just push the deadline, or we'll get around to it when we get
Yeah.
around to it. I mean, it's just a different
I remember when
mentality.
SpaceX first landed those rockets, you knew were rockets, the first that actually worked, like we're like, oh shit, like this is badass right here. This is so nice.
And they just got approved for the, I just saw them, they got approved for the Mars, is it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So
Makes sense,
that
yeah.
was good.
That's not something most people don't realize. I mean, I do, but like what's on our phone was more engineering that wasn't got us to the moon, right?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Like, and people don't realize that. Like, if you have enough power here to send you to the moon, right?
Right.
And so, like, next question, like, we went to the moon in 1969, and we really haven't done anything in space since then, right? If you think about it, right? I mean, of course, we sent probes to
Space.
Mars and Pluto, but like, you don't think we would have had a man on Mars by now, right? Why do you think we went backward? You think about it, we went to the moon in 69, went a couple more times, and the space shuttle really just flew around the Earth, right? Do you think it's like a national will, different priorities? What do you think?
Yes, I think it's different priorities. I mean, I think they're already talking about a moon base. I mean, we don't need to go on the Mars, but I think I had the astronaut that's doing the medical, and he was concerned about the gamma rays that kill you before you get to Mars, but now he feels safe, confident that we can get somebody to Mars by 2039. I think they're shooting for, but they won't be coming back.
Yeah.
So if you, it's just like
Definitely a one-way trip.
Get on the Mayflower, you're going to
Yeah.
the United States or whatever.
Yeah, you're not coming back.
You're not coming back, but that's good. I mean, you got to set up a colony up there, and
Yeah.
I think that's the way. And then the moon. I mean, the moon. They're looking at the moon. It's calling. In fact, they're getting a lot of solar stuff. Somebody did a talk on that. You can get a lot of silicon or something from the moon, and you can build build it there.
Yeah.
I mean that's impressive. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, just imagine, like, let's suppose like Columbus or Mayflower came to the United States, and then it went back to get more money, right? And they said, we're not gonna spend no more money on this. We're good here, right? I mean, just a sense of adventure you got to have, I think.
you mean if Matt Damon gets to Mars?
Exactly, yeah.
Well, we're not coming to get you.
No, they're not. No, they're not.
Well, and they'll send another. I mean, eventually we got to get there. I mean, it's either us or Russia and China. I don't know, whoever wants to get up. I think China's going to the moon this year or something.
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Elon Musk offers you a seat on the Mars trip. You taking it?
Well, my grandmother said never fly on the space shuttle. I was like, I said, why not? I mean, I work inside of it all the time. But I mean, I'm too old. By the time I get there, I'll probably die. But my daughter, she's 13, and that could be a possibility.
Yeah, I definitely think my kids and my grandkids are going to do space travel, right?
Yeah.
And I put it this: if my grandkids aren't like able to travel the moon or something like that, I don't know. I think something's gone wrong scientifically. I think
What's that?
I think if my kids don't go to the moon, or my grandkids don't go do space travel, some kind of space travel.
Yeah.
I mean, something's gone wrong, I think.
Well, I think that's going to happen sooner than later.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the Atlantic. You just take off and you can get to a level with what space now? What, 100,000 feet?
I think so.
Something like that.
Yeah, and that's too. Like, it's space, then there's like, I guess, a real space, right? Like,
well, I mean, I had one lady I was talking to. She does the where the jet goes straight down and you feel 0 and 0 G's. She calls it the vomit flight. I mean, so like when you go deep sea fishing, everybody's like vomiting, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then they just picked the 4 people to go to.
I saw that.
Go around the moon, I guess.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
that was nice.
Yeah. So I know that we have a space program. Russia has one. India, Japan. Of all these different countries with space programs, which one do you think is our closest competitor? If that makes any sense, do you think it's still Russia or?
Well, Japan's. I mean, China's coming up fast.
Yeah, they are. Yeah,
on everything. I don't know what they're doing, but they're doing something right. Russia's probably running out of money.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, are we breaking up with the space?
I don't know.
Station?
It kind of seems like, how can we even be partners with them right now, right? Like,
right. So
I don't know.
But the astronaut at the talk, his wife was actually Russian. So and he said when he goes up to the space station, there's a Russian section and then there's an American section. So
yeah, I don't know. It's just confusing. So back to electrical engineering. What's your future career plans? Like, what do you see for yourself in the future?
Probably continuing doing what I'm doing. Um, I picked the microgrid, so I'm trying to push my boss more toward getting more green projects. But that's an in for other projects, like, you need a new switch gear, like, so that's something that I'm pushing for.
So what does the labor market look for electrical engineering? Like you always hear like there's like X amount of plumbers needed, X amount of, whatever industry you pick, like there's like 100,000 jobs for software engineers.
Yeah.
Like what's that like for electrical engineers? Don't you have like a lot of job openings that y'all need to replace pretty soon?
There's actually a big demand for electrical engineers, like I mentioned. We're probably gonna have a shortage. But I'm talking to some of the young engineers and they're like, Mike, they work for like a Boeing and they're like, I'm a wallflower on the wall. Nobody notices me. I don't get recognition. I mean, the younger generation, they need to be, you're doing a great job, or whatever you're doing, let's recognize you for that. So that's important. And if we can just kind of like, bringing them in and not training them or just let them sit. I mean, some people are not motivated. They don't know what to do, especially for COVID. They're sitting at home. It's like, well, what do I do? I mean, I don't know what to do. Right. So, but we got to motivate these folks. We do have jobs out there for electrical engineering. But, we got to make it more enticing, I think.
And so I'm guessing electrical engineering, you got to have a pretty good math background, right?
Yes.
So like, is it like calculus level, trig level, physics? Like what kind of math? Or is it all the above?
Yeah, all the above. Physics, electronics, statics, dynamics, thermodynamics. We go through all the basic courses, and then you can select after that semiconductors or electronics. What do you want to focus on? And like I mentioned, I think the best thing to do is do a co-op. So if you think you got something, a lot of these companies will hire you for the summer, and then you can try it out before you actually kind of, move to Houston and shoot up rockets, so, because I had a buddy from Houston and they closed down the Apollo and they couldn't sell their house, and because everybody was selling their house, that there's no more Apollo program. So that was the issue there. So he had 2 houses for a while. So
Yeah. So next question. We're talking about running. Is there anything else you do for fun? Any other hobbies you have?
I like going watching movies. I mean, I just kind of stay up abreast with movies. I think that's about it. I mean, you only have so many hours in a
Yeah,
day.
you do. And so how long have you been at your current company?
Since April last year.
April, so pretty new position.
Yeah.
So as electrical engineering, how often do you like change jobs? Is like you keep a job 4 or 5 years, change every 2 years, or just depends?
Well, I see a lot of people, they've been in there for 30 years and they're retiring. In fact, my best man just retired and he's like younger than me. I'm like, Rich, I'm just getting started. He's retiring. He worked for Harris Antennas. He kind of liked what he was doing. Well, he was like me and him were lab partners, and he would do all this stuff really nice. And he got to a point in his career as an electrical engineer that if his job would level off instead of going up, so he had to he had to go into project management and be a spokesman for the group.
How often do people have a government job, then private enterprise, or do people just like start a government, stay in government their whole career, or private, or you can switch it back and forth?
So I think if you went to government, you'd probably stay with the government because it's such a lucrative job, and I'm not going to say it's easy, but there's less pressure in the real world. I like pressure. I mean, that's how I get motivated, design deadlines. But some folks, they really like the security of a government job. So if that's you, I mean, there's some place, I think my wife took it here. You do a survey and they kind of tell you what you should be. And she found out she was supposed to be she's not a designer. She's more of a project manager. So that's what she's doing now, is project management.
Okay.
And she's loving it. I mean, she's, working with the DOT and, she gives her opinion. I mean, she's a PhD and she does all these great, she used to do bridges. We actually came here from Chicago because of the 520 bridge, and she worked on the 520 bridge. So.
Yes. Mike, so like neither one of us are spring chickens anymore, right?
Right.
21's in a rearview mirror. Can you talk some about how like at your age you still have all this focus, all this energy, like you're still doing things done?
Well, I think I was born that way. I mean, you either have that motivation or not. So I'm actually chasing my wife, trying to get to her level. And you know, what do I need to do that? I mean, we have our kids. They're almost out of high school now. But I mean, to me, I wake up every day like it's my last, right? So I'm going to live it to the fullest, and then have my long-term, short-term, and medium-range goals. And one of my goals now is to, you know, to build my company. Now I'm the only electrical engineer in the company, so I want to, you know, grow that department, and it's mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, and then move up the food chain there.
So for everything you're doing, like you're running your volunteer role, your job on a day-to-day basis, how you determine that you're being a success, like you're adding value, like
Well, I mean, when we started off, like the Boston Marathon, they started with what, 21 runners, right? So as we increased, I mean, COVID kind of set us back. I mean, we were brand new. In fact, the reason why I did the running club, running is to give my son a job. So, and that didn't work out. So I'm so invested in it now. Basically, I'm trying to connect. The first race we had was called Sigma 6K because I worked for Sigma 6. And I just saw, you know, a lot of overweight people. I'm like, well, can we motivate them? I mean, it turned out that they don't want to run at all. But I mean, the former CEO died, and I'm like, well, maybe we're eating too many pizzas or something. I mean, to me, that was, you know, like I said, I give back. I was part of the Greater Bellingham Running Club, and working with sponsorship. But you know, I used to always take. I go to all these races, take all the food. I know I got some experience. I can help out some of the younger folks. I mean, a lot of this is volunteer. It's all fun, and it keeping people healthy. I think that's one of my goals. But I try to mix it all together. I try to get some of the professionals that I work with in electrical engineer to come out to the races. So I'm kind of like trying to motivate them to, you know, become more community related. I have network night with the Mariners, trying to get folks out there for that. Trying to figure out what do they want? How do we keep them active? Speakers, pizzas, that all works.
so Mike, you said earlier about how far you ran. Is there a distance even farther you want to run, like bucket list, like I want to run 100 miles in one day or something, like that?
Yes, exactly. On my bucket list is the 100-mile run. So I don't know if I can do it in one day, but there's a lot of races. In fact, I have people come on that actually do these races, and they said you got to respect the distance, just like people that want to do a Boston Marathon in 1 week. You got to build up, and it just doesn't come overnight. And a lot of people I interviewed for the food bank to generate money. So I get these speakers, they come on at no cost, like Bill Rogers. He called me the day before. I'm like, Bill Rogers, 4-time winner of the Boston Marathon. I'm like, holy cow, this is Bob. In fact, I ran against him in Tampa, right? And I passed him, and then he passed me back, and then I finished, and then I hear this crowd, and I said, Bill, what happened there? He says, oh, I took a wrong turn. So, but so I mean that's what motivates me.
Okay. Do you have like any professional mentors?
Professional mentors. So I work with the folks in the industry. I mean, if I have issues, I kind of reach out to like Sanjay, you know, what would you do in this case? So I have a lot of contacts, I guess you say. And then, you know, if something doesn't work, you know, what you do in the past. So it's more like engineer peers. When I was working at one of the Seattle companies, my boss was my mentor. So I was kind of following him. He was an expert in bridge design for electrical, so movable bridges. So I kind of tailed along with him because we were doing projects here that had electrical involved. He was actually doing projects all over the country. But that's what motivates me, because if I see something I like, I want more of those. So you kind of hang out with that guy a little bit more.
And the second part of the question, probably more important, like who are you mentoring?
Okay, so, you know, a lot of the young guys, they come to me and say, especially for job, career advancement, well, you know, what do I do, Mike? I mean, I'm, like I said, I'm a wallflower, you know, so I try to talk to them and figure out, what are you trying to do? What do you want? You know, do you want to write papers? Do you want to be, you know, praised? If you don't like the job, like the Navy, it was kind of like, you know, you go to work, you get a paycheck. I mean, but is that motivating? I mean, to me, like I said, I'm more industry type. And then Boeing people, they're so, they, they, uh, they are, indoctrinated on a certain way to do things, and it's kind of hard for them to change sometimes. So, but I have friends on both sides of the, you know, either government or industry.
So Mike, you mentioned bridges, right? So I could be wrong about this again, but it's like the infrastructure in the United States is like horrible, right?
Yeah.
Like you hear about bridges failing tests, roads having potholes, like stuff being like not done since the 1930s.
Yeah.
Why has infrastructure like gone to shit, so to speak, right? And you look at other countries like China, Japan, like example, I think China or Europe has a train that goes from like London to Berlin, like an hour and a half, right? Of course, I'm making that up, right?
Yeah.
And it takes like 6 days to go from Seattle to LA, right? Like, is this government bureaucracy, or what do you think the challenge is?
Well, we do have the high-speed train from LA to Las Vegas. It was in the works. I think they just canceled that project for some reason. Like special interest, especially here, light rail. I mean, one of my coworkers was saying is like, Mike, only 5% of the population uses the light rail. Why are we spending half the budget on the light rail? I mean, that's very expensive. But I think in the long run, if we're going to be like China or one of the top industries, you need that connection. I mean, folks can come in from any city and don't, you know, like Singapore, they get you to the last mile. They even have cars that bring you right to your house.
And even though only 5% people use the light rail, that's 5% of people don't have the cars on the road, right?
Right.
And maybe the link road actually went more places, more people to use it, right?
That's correct.
I mean, that's my opinion on that. Yeah, I just think a challenge. You say all the time, you know, I'm not going to vote for light rail or I think a few years ago, South Sound Trans had some kind of ballot initiative.
Yeah.
A lot of people were like, I don't use the light rail, I don't use a bus, I'm gonna go for you, right? You got to explain, well, these other people do. If you say no, they're going to be on the car, and your commute's be even worse than it is, right? A lot of people can't get rid of their own bubble. I don't think, you know, see the good of everything. And another thing too, like Seattle has a pretty good like public transit system, and compared to other places, right? Like you compare to us, like Austin, Texas, Houston, Texas, Dallas, Texas, like nowhere close. But like if you compare Seattle like Seoul, Korea, or anywhere in Europe, it's not even close, right? It's like we're so far behind.
Yeah, it depends on what the people want, I think.
Yeah.
Special interest. I mean, the thing is, you gotta vote. I mean, if you don't, like, like my wife doesn't vote, I'm like, well, I mean, I'm sorry you didn't vote, so
yeah.
well, at least take a stance, one way or the other.
So you mentioned special interests. I'm guessing, are there like a lot of like electrical engineering lobbyists or special interest groups or lobbyists, you want to call it, in DC trying to influence like legislations, all that kind of stuff?
Yes, we have somebody in IEEE in DC working full time doing that, and he has a team. So, you know, bills that are passed, we kind of we get a ballot for us to, they say, well, get a say or get out there and make a difference, especially about the PE licenses. I think there was an initiative on that. But yeah, we got somebody in DC working with our senators too, in there.
And y'all do that at also the state level?
State levels.
I had to mention some like the state legislators or.
Well, there was a big issue in California. It's called the job shop or something. What is it?
I think I know what you're talking about.
But he was trying to make me push to get him on the program, but he never came on the program. I'm like, well, you gotta you gotta get out there so you can push that. I mean, it's like Uber, I guess. They're not treated as employees.
Yeah.
And he's doing like these job shop jobs, like per job. He doesn't work for a company, he works for himself. And I guess he wants to hire folks, and does he hire them as employees or
contractors?
Contractors, yeah. So that's a big issue. So there's a big push for that bill. And he got our senator from, well, not a senator, IEEE folk from DC to put a word in for that California. And I don't know which way it went, but I haven't followed that because I'm not into that industry. That's why I say if you want to push it, I'm glad to hear your voice. I don't know why he didn't want to come up. Maybe he's shy or something.
Yeah, who knows? So if you had the power to make any change, like what thing do you want to change in your industry?
Change. That's a tough question. I don't know the answer.
Okay, all right, cool. Is there any like interesting tech that you know about that's coming up in the industry?
Like ChatGPT?
I mean, it's for electrical engineering.
I think so. I mean, I think it crosses all borders, but I think it's interesting. You can ask this artificial intelligence, what's the answer to what's the diagnosis? I think that there's a lot of research going on there. We work with a couple of the health companies locally, and I think that's going to take off really good. So
do you see the day comes when like AI and robots take everything over? Like, the robots are doing all the electrical engineering, AI's doing everything, and then we're just like on like, I don't know, some kind of universal basic income, not doing anything, and the robots are doing anything?
I think so. I would agree. I mean, I don't see any reason why. Why, if we come up with a technology that works, and I mean, the thing is, they're not eliminating our jobs. We'll be more maintaining them.
Yeah.
We'll be watching them, but they're 24/7. I mean,
yeah,
that's
it's not the same thing. By example, like if you have like a lineman who like goes fix electrical wires in a storm,
yeah,
like why, if risk somebody's human life, you can just send a robot or a drone to do it, right?
Exactly.
But of course, I know they make damn good money, right, doing that, right? So then, they make $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 a year being an electrical lineman. Like, and like, what do you do? Like, how do you replace the income, right?
Well, I think a lot of them just get phased out. The new stuff's coming in, AI or robotics. I think that's the way it's going to go. So instead of, like you said, the coal people, they kind of get, I mean, if they're mid-career, they get cut off in half. Well, they got to get retrained, whatever they have to do. I'm sure there's programs.
Well, I'm just hoping Skynet is not on the way.
Skynet, yeah.
I'm hoping that's not on the way, right?
Well, I mean, I don't know if you've been following cybersecurity, but there's a new thing coming out. There's not ones and zeros anymore. It's going to be like infinite amount. So it's like, how do you detect?
Yeah.
You're not following ones and zeros anymore. So it's called, what's it called? Cybersecurity. Forgot what it was called, but I mean, we had one guy talk about it. He works for the government, and he's saying, well, we're training up now because in 5 years it's going to come online, and we want to be prepared. So, I mean, right now we're getting, with all those cyber hacks and stuff, you see cities shut down, companies getting shut down.
What's called like some kind of cyber ransom. You got to pay the ransomware.
Yeah, we had a guy talk on that. And in which levels are they coming at? At the transmission level, the physical level?
And then how many companies out there or organizations have got hacked, but they don't tell us, right? Because either they don't want people to know, or
Well, like you see, 6 months later, then they they announce it. Say, oh, we got hacked 6 months ago. Well, why didn't you tell me now?
Yeah,
my information is probably all over the world now. So
I know, and like you hear, like, and no one said, I hear like Wendy's, Target, like national banks, U.S. government, Pentagon, and the Pentagon got hacked. Like what chance anyone else have, right? They keep their stuff secure.
Exactly. Well, I mean, look at the guy just this weekend. He just kind of put all the stuff on social media.
Yeah, put on the Discord server, the 20-year-old dude.
So
you hear the story about that? Supposedly, like, although it wasn't like no top secret stuff, like he was this Discord server, right? And like bunch of like basically like nerds like playing like video games.
Yeah.
And they started talking trash. And the guy, Air Force guy, supposedly said, well, I'm in the Air Force, I have access to top secrets, right?
Yeah.
And like, no, you don't. Get the F out of here. You're bullshitting. And he posted it all on the Discord server, right? To prove they had access to this top security. That was supposedly, there was no like trying to set up China or anything malicious. He was just trying to like, be the super nerd and prove that he had access to all this data, right?
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, now his life is probably like F rest of his life, probably,
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
That's crazy. So
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Snowden was the same way.
Yeah.
No, Snowden wasn't the same way. He had a vendetta, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
He was totally different. Yeah.
but how do you talk to a guy? I mean, you could be a normal person, and how do you get inside the brain?
And of course, somebody would say, like, why this 20-year-old kid? I mean, he's a man that was serving the country, but so a 21-year-old guy
Yeah.
access to all these top level secrets, right? And I think it was only been in the Air Force, not even like maybe a year, right? Year or two, right? So he's not like he was like a lieutenant colonel with 20 years experience. He's like pretty much brand new Air Force access to all this top level stuff, right? You would think there'd be some kind of like access controls or something.
Well, I used to do top secret at the Space Center, and it's the need to know. You don't get to have access to everything. So what he would had access to is what he was working on.
Yeah, you're right.
And he didn't have, like Snowden, I don't know, he had like everything.
Yeah. And like Snowden was like the head of the CIA or all the information that guy had, right?
So he probably had top secret level.
Yeah, he released everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this kid, like, supposedly just like, want to be a super nerd and prove, like, no, I really have access to it, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're doing that now in Tacoma, right? You can steal a car with your cell phone.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So the challenges, or the ice challenge, and people were dying, or the, you drink your water and then you die. I mean, that's social media. I mean, that's a whole different issue.
Yeah. So speaking of social media, how do y'all use social media to, like, because a lot of these like young kids come up there on TikTok, Instagram.
Yeah.
How do y'all use social media kind of way to entice these kids or these people to become electrical engineering?
So me personally, I do the Zoom network, Teams. IEEE has a great website, so I've been using that. I can make flyers. I can make invitations, which is a good platform. Which if somebody else doesn't have that, like somebody from California said, Mike, I'd like to join, or how do I make my own consultant network? So I said, yeah, I'll teach you. But it kind of died. I mean, it takes a lot of time.
It does. It does.
And I know it, so I can train these folks.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I try to tell these people. If you want to do it, I'll help you. I mean, I'll get you going. Like my boss just joined the consortium network. I mean, does he realize how much work that is? I'm like, I hope you understand how much work that is. But it could have a good payback too.
So back to the cruise in October, right? Can you talk more about that? Like, what kind of speakers you're going to have? Like, how many days is it going to be? And what, like, how people can sign up, all that kind of stuff?
Okay, so it's in conjunction with the 50-year IEEE USA. They just want to do something different. Like I mentioned, I do conferences. So the first thing I did is I knew the whole ship is not IEEE. So I knew I could get a room to do a conference. So I advertised it and the word got out, and everybody, my guy Fial put a good word in for me and says, Mike's on board. He's good. The IEEE president, he's like, I have him as a speaker all the time. So I'm on board now. So anybody can register for it. And we're having, to me, I think I can have speakers for 4 days. And, if they want to get on, all I say, it's a free conference. If all you have to do is get on board. I'm trying to raise some money for some of the paid speakers, like the mayor of Bellevue. I'm trying to get her on. But it's exciting because it's a huge conference room on board, and we got it for free. And it'll be a good platform.
So when you say free, the tickets for the actual cruise are free?
No, you got to get on the boat.
Okay, so you have to pay, like, if someone from Seattle, they have to pay for the ticket from here to Florida,
right?
And then pay for the cruise tickets.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, I think it's a good deal. I mean, because I'm getting these top brain folks on board, good connections, CEO, decision makers, and if you can have those guys here for for a week.
And what are they gonna do? You're on the boat, right? So they gotta listen to you.
Well, one of the guys that went up in the first, I think it's Bezos space flight. He's in Gig Harbor. He wanted me to fly him back afterwards after he spoke. I'm like, oh man, that's kind of expensive.
Yeah.
He would speak for 1 day. He didn't want to stay for 4 days. But they're going out to the Bahamas. They got a private island. It seems like a really good deal. I used to, when I was in Canaveral, I used to go out there on the Sea Escape all the time. And it's just a fun trip, lots of food. And in fact, if you go with folks that even better. So I think it's going to be a great time.
And so for the 4 days, it's like you have something to schedule, it's like 9 to 5 each of those days, or
Well, I mean, to me, if nobody's there, I get the conference room.
Mhm.
They do have they call them lightning rounds, which is a half hour, 3.5 hour presentations. I just gotta let them have the conference room. So these guys that work for the IEEE, so they put it on, and like I mentioned, I hijacked the space. So I'm in. They accepted me, and I got a ton of speakers coming in, and I think it's just going to be a great time. Because I mean, like Las Vegas is going to be a great time because we get all the speakers coming in the day before. We're going to have a speaker meeting. Because like I mentioned, my conference is a fast pace. I don't, if somebody's if we had one speaker, she was talking to the guy on how to do the slides. By the time you got to go in 20 minutes, I had to cut him off. I said,
Yeah.
Marion, we'll invite you back another time so you can do a full presentation. But some of these, they're very technical, and a lot of folks, they spend a lot of time to get that 20 minutes in, and and we do a lot of advertising for them too. I kind of publish them, promote them, and then we have a salute to the speakers at the end, where we put a presentation together and put it online. So I think it's a win-win for everybody. Everybody's getting connected. My boss will be there, so he's going to make connections, and who do you want to work with? It's good to see folks outside COVID. I mean, you kind of get sick of the Zoom meetings.
Yeah, you do.
I said, my boss says, well, can we Zoom? We're at the conference next week, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, we can Zoom them right now. We don't have to wait.
Yeah.
So I said, we got to go shake some hands. And he agrees with me.
Zooms are nice, but man, it's just something about being in person,
Yeah, I mean, it's good seeing you. I mean, I always see you on online, and
So Mike, it sounds like a lot of the electrical industry, they work for government or private corporations. How often is there any value in electrical engineering, like starting their own company, own startups?
Yes, definitely. I see a lot of engineers that actually work for the industry, and then they open their own business, especially like Microsoft. So because I think we just had one guy, he's making a computer chip that's faster than everything on the industry. I'm like, wow, that's great. Yeah, let's hear your story. So so everybody's like inquiring, and then I guess they kind of ran into I mean, if you make that claim, then let's see it. I mean, you don't have to show all the deals. You just got to kind of give us the general overview. I guess they're looking for funding too. So, but a lot of that stuff is proprietary, like all these fusion things. Like we're going to do the fusion tour here. They can give us the overview, but the details is.
I'm sure they have patents, all that kind of stuff on it, right?
They have patents too. Yeah. So patent pending and patents. In fact, in Las Vegas, we got a patent attorney flying down from Seattle. So I had him on the show, and now he's going to do a presentation. I get to meet him in person, even though we're in Seattle. I never get
You don't meet him in person in Las Vegas. That's crazy.
But I mean, I was trying to get the fusion guy. He's going to talk in Las Vegas. I was trying to get him here to talk, and he no show. I mean, we had him on the screen, but I guess sometimes there's excitement. You get to Las Vegas, a lot of folks, or just a venue where a lot of folks get together, and you kind of trade information, and it's probably faster than doing it on the Zoom call or something.
So where in Vegas is your conference going to be at? Like, is it going to be on the Strip, the Fremont, or
South Strip? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we got a lot of things planned. It should be exciting. So like I said, fast paced. We got 3 rooms going. Boardroom, we're going to have the microgrid consortium meeting, and then the other 2, we have 2 tracks going, and it's a technical, and it's all mixed up. So I hope you like excitement, because it could go from electronics and go payloads, health electronics, microgrids, all, and it's 20 minutes. So if you don't like a speaker, you can wait 20 minutes.
Yeah.
You got another one coming on.
So when you do these conferences, like, do you videotape it and record all the stuff so you can push it out later?
So online, we videotape it.
Okay.
The Seattle one, I videotaped it. I mean, you got the speaker. I don't know. I mean, I posted it online, so I don't know if folks want to hear that. But when you do it on the Zoom, you get more face. You get more questions. You can put the 2 people together. It's just a lot better scenario. So
I kind of asked you this question already, but Let's suppose there's someone out there, they're in college, or electrical engineer major, or junior, senior, getting ready to graduate, and they want to come work with you, right?
Yeah.
What would they need to do to reach out to you, convince you that they're worth the chance?
So one, we got to have a job available. I mean, we're a growing company now, so as I give my boss more leads, he can take on bigger projects. And I think he's on board with growing the company, not just having me as the single electrical engineer. Like I mentioned, we got a young engineer coming on Monday, starting with us. We're totally remote, so we have an office here right down the street in Bellevue. But you know, COVID kind of changed the push. I was always remote with Siemens, so I used to do all my work from the house. So this was nothing new to me. I didn't lose a beat. So resume, what kind of senior project you did? I used to work at the space center, and they said, well, come up with an idea. Ask them how to change a tire. And if they have that engineering thought, you just change it. No, you get out the jack. You do.
There's a process.
There's a process. So if they can think like an engineer, they're probably halfway there.
Okay.
So if they like learning, I mean, sometimes they want to do it themselves. But if they have aggression or excitement to do the work, I think that's half the battle.
Is there some type of like really big, bodacious electric engineering project out there that someone's working on?
Yes. There's R&D, a lot of R&D folks that they're coming up with new ideas, trying to beat the competition. Houston Civic Center or something brand new, like they did the Seahawk Stadium. That's always excitement. My wife started off with a company called Alfred Benish, and they did all these, showcase bridges. Folks like that because they're in the news. Some folks just like the ordinary bridge. I mean, I'm working a bridge. What do I need? Structural stuff to do. I know they're putting in the new I-5 bridge between Oregon and Washington, so that's probably excitement.
There's something I was wanting to know, right? Like these bridges, like in the water, right? In the ocean or the seas, the lakes, like how does it get built? Like how do those like beams go into the water? Like do you have deep sea divers go in the building? Like how does that actually work? I always wanted to know about that.
Well, I'm not a structural engineer, and you probably have to ask my wife, but I think they have divers there.
Okay.
As you know, I don't know if you know, the I-90 bridge, when it was being built, it sunk.
I did not know that.
Okay, so the first one sunk. I mean, these are pontoons, right? I mean, it's just like a ship. How can something weigh so much and they put it on water? Well, it displaces the water, right? And then, as you know, the 520 bridge is not, it's a floating bridge, right? So there's no beams there, but I think it's just like these oil rigs where they put them in, they actually drill down and have to take out the soil. And then, I think they put cement in there actually, and it hardens somehow. But like you said, it's an engineering process, and some folks like that. So,
and so electrical engineering, is that pretty much a new what looking for? New career field? Or how long has that been around?
Electrical has been around forever, right? Since electricity.
Okay.
Who invented that? Thomas Edison with the light bulb or something?
Benjamin Franklin or something?
Benjamin Franklin.
So then, okay.
But it's a safety hazard too. So 5 milliamps wet palm could kill you, right? It's not the voltage that can kill you, it's the current. So we do a lot of safety precautions, make sure the switch is off, lock it out, because if you don't lock it out, Joe Blow, like your coworker, will put it on. Say, oh, somebody shut this off. And then the guy's working on something electrical, and then he gets, electrocuted. We did have a 3-mile line wire, right? So we disconnected it, and the new guy grabbed the two, and he got electrocuted. So even a line, it has inductance in it, which still has a current. So just like your TV, remember the old days? Well, it's unplugged, Mom. You stick your finger, it holds the charge. So, and then when it goes across your heart, I mean, if it goes through here, then you're okay. But if it goes across your heart, because when you grab, it's called the right hand rule. You only grab. Electricians, they always put the hand behind their back when they touch stuff because you wanted to go this way,
That way,
not across.
not
your heart.
across.
Yeah, so.
So Mike, is there anything I should have asked you that I haven't, or anything else you want to talk about?
So I think you hit it. Running, IEEE, career. I mean, I think that's about it.
Okay. Before we get out of here, well, first of all, can you give us your social media or so people can reach out to you?
Let's see which one. Like microgridconsortium.com.
Yeah, that one, or your LinkedIn profiles, or
Mike Brisbois at well, that's funny that you say that. I had one guy, a sponsor, he says, do I just PayPal you to Mike Brisbois? I said, yeah, go ahead. And I said, well, where'd it go? Well, I gave it to Mike Brisbois at PayPal.
Yeah.
There's a million Mike Brisbois out there.
Yeah. So I'll put your link to social media in the show notes.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. And can you give us any last minute advice or wisdom or anything you want to talk about?
That's about it. I think you hit them all.
Cool. All right. So Mike, thank you for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
And to our listeners, thank you for your time as well. And remember to be great every day.